Quitting when you hit the dip is a bad idea. If the journey you started was worth doing, then quitting when you hit the dip just wastes the time you've already invested. Quit in the dip often enough and you'll find yourself becoming a serial quitter, starting many things but accomplishing little. Simple. If you can't make it through the dip, don't start. If you can embrace the simple rule, you'll be a lot choosier about which journeys to start. Today I will be reading to you my highlights of the dip, the extraordinary benefits of knowing when to quit and when to stick. Written by Seth Godin. Being the best in the world is seriously underrated. I feel like giving up. Almost every day, in fact. Not all day, of course, but there are moments. My bet is that you have those moments too. Most of the time, we deal with the obstacles by persevering. Sometimes we get discouraged and turn to inspirational writing, like stuff from Vince Lombardi. Quitters never win and winners never quit. Bad advice. Winners quit all the time. They just quit the right stuff at the right time. Once you understand the common sinkhole that trips up so many people, I call it the dip, you'll be one step closer to getting through it. Extraordinary benefits accrue to the tiny minority of people who are able to push just a tiny bit longer than most. Extraordinary benefits also accrue to the tiny majority with the guts to quit early and refocus their efforts on something new. Believe it or not, quitting is often a great strategy, a smart way to manage your life and your career. Sometimes, though, quitting is exactly the wrong thing to do. It turns out that there's a pretty simple way to tell the difference. We reward the product or the song or the organization or the employee that is number one. The rewards are heavily skewed, so much so that it's typical for number one to get 10 times the benefit of number 10 and 100 times the benefit of number 100. The reason number one matters? People don't have a lot of time and don't want to take a lot of risks. If you've been diagnosed with cancer of the navel, you're not going to mess around by going to a lot of doctors. You're going to head straight to the top guy, the person who's ranked the best in the world. Why screw around if you get only one chance? You're not the only person who looks for the best choice. Everyone does. As a result, the rewards for being first are enormous. It's not a linear scale. The second reason there are such tremendous benefits to being number one is a little more subtle. Being at the top matters because there's room at the top for only a few. Scarcity makes being at the top worth something. Just about everything you learned in school about life is wrong, but the wrongest thing might very well be this: and being well-rounded is the secret to success. In a free market, we reward the exceptional. In school, we tell kids that once something gets too hard, move on and focus on the next thing. Strategic quitting is the secret of successful organizations. Reactive quitting and serial quitting are the bane of those that strive and fail to get what they want. And most people do just that. They quit when it's painful and stick when they can't be bothered to quit. Curve 1. The dip. At the beginning, when you first start something, it's fun. Over the next few days and weeks, the rapid learning you experience keeps you going. Whatever your new thing is, it's easy to stay engaged in it. And then the dip happens. The dip is the long slog between starting and mastery. The dip is the difference between the easy beginner technique and the more useful expert approach. The dip is the long stretch between beginner's luck and real accomplishment. The dip is the set of artificial screens set up to keep people like you out. It's easy to be a CEO. What's hard is getting there. There is a huge dip along the way. If it was easy, there'd be too many people vying for the job and the CEOs couldn't get paid as much, could they? Scarcity, as we've seen, is the secret to value. If there wasn't a dip, there'd be no scarcity. Curve 2. The Cul-De-Sac. The cul-de-sac, French for dead end, is so simple it doesn't even need a chart. It's a situation where you work and you work and you work and nothing much changes. They call those jobs dead-end jobs. There's not a lot to say about the cul-de-sac except to realize that it exists and to embrace the fact that when you find one, you need to get off it fast. Curve 3. The cliff. Rare but scary. Because smoking is designed to be almost impossible to quit, the longer you do it, the better it feels to continue smoking. The pain of quitting just gets bigger and bigger over time. I call this curve a cliff. It's a situation where you can't quit until you fall off, and the whole thing falls apart. The dip is the secret to your success. The people who set out to make it through the dip, the people who invest the time and the energy and the effort to power through the dip, those are the ones who become the best in the world. They are breaking the system because instead of moving on to the next thing, instead of doing slightly above average and settling for what they've got, they embrace the challenge. For whatever reason, they refuse to abandon the quest and they push through the dip all the way to the next level. A few people will choose to do the brave thing and end up the best in the world. Informed people will probably choose to do the mature thing and save their resources for a project they're truly passionate about. Both are fine choices. It's the last choice, the common choice, the choice to give it a shot and then quit, that you must avoid if you want to succeed. Your marketplace is competitive, filled with people overcoming challenges every day. It's the incredibly difficult challenges, the dips, that give you the opportunity to pull ahead. In a competitive world, adversity is your ally. The harder it gets, the better chance you have of insulating yourself from the competition. If that adversity also causes you to quit, though, it's all for nothing. Hardworking, motivated people find diversification a natural outlet for their energy and drive. Diversification feels like the right thing to do. And yet the real success goes to those who obsess. The focus that leads you through the dip to the other side is rewarded by a marketplace in search of the best in the world. The essential thing to know about the dip is that it's there. Knowing that you're facing a dip is the first step in getting through it. Quitting when you hit the dip is a bad idea. If the journey you started was worth doing, then quitting when you hit the dip just wastes the time you've already invested. Quit in the dip often enough and you'll find yourself becoming a serial quitter, starting many things but accomplishing little. Simple. If you can't make it through the dip, don't start. If you can embrace the simple rule, you'll be a lot choosier about which journeys to start. Not only do you need to find a dip that you can conquer, but you also need to quit all the cul-de-sacs that you're currently idling your way through. You must quit the projects and investments and endeavors that don't offer you the same opportunity. Whatever you do for a living or for fun, it's probably somehow based on a system that's based on quitting. Quitting creates scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Successful entrepreneurs understand the difference between investing to get through the dip, a smart move, or investing in something that's actually a risky crapshoot. Quitting the stuff you don't care about or the stuff you're mediocre at, or better yet, quitting the cul-de-sacs, frees up your resources to obsess about the dips that matter. If you're going to quit, quit before you start. Reject the system. Don't play the game if you realize you can't be the best in the world. The next time you catch yourself being average when you feel like quitting, realize that you only have two good choices: quit or be exceptional. Average is for losers. Do you know an entrepreneur wannabe who is on his 6th or 12th new project? He jumps from one to another, and every time he hits an obstacle, he switches to a new, easier, better opportunity. And while he's a seeker, he's never going to get anywhere. He never gets anywhere because he's always switching lines, never able to really run for it. While starting up is thrilling, it's not until you get through the dip that your efforts pay off. Yes, you must quit a product or a feature or a design. You need to do it regularly if you're going to grow and have the resources to invest in the right businesses. But no, you mustn't quit a market or a strategy or a niche. The businesses we think of as overnight successes weren't. We just didn't notice them until they were well baked. The market wants to see you persist. It demands a signal from you that you're serious, powerful, accepted, and safe. The bulk of the market, any market, is made up of those folks in the middle of the bell curve, the ones who want to buy something proven and valued. Your strategy, to be a trusted source in your chosen market, can survive even if your product is cancelled. Short-term pain has more impact on most people than long-term benefits do, which is why it's so important for you to amplify the long-term benefits of not quitting. You need to remind yourself of life at the other end of the dip, because it's easier to overcome the pain of yet another unsuccessful cold call if the reality of a successful sales career is more concrete. Persistent people are able to visualize the idea of light at the end of the tunnel when others can't see it. At the same time, the smartest people are realistic about not imagining light when there isn't any. If you're not going to get to number one, you might as well quit now. Yes, I know it's heretical, but I'm advocating quitting. Quitting often, in fact. Not giving up and abandoning your long-term strategy, wherever you might be using that strategy, a career, an income, a relationship, a sale, but quitting the tactics that aren't working. The time to look for a new job is when you don't need one. The time to switch jobs is before it feels comfortable. Go. Switch. Challenge yourself. Get yourself a raise and a promotion. You owe it to your career and your skills. If your job is a cul-de-sac, you have to quit or accept the fact that your career is over. If you realize you're at a dead end compared with what you could be investing in, quitting is not only a reasonable choice, it's a smart one. Failing, on the other hand, means that your dream is over. Failing happens when you give up, when there are no other options, or when you quit so often that you've used up all your time and resources. Quitting is better than coping because quitting frees you up to excel at something else. Quitting as a short-term strategy is a bad idea. Quitting for the long term is an excellent idea. I think the advice giver meant to say, never quit something with great long-term potential just because you can't deal with the stress of the moment. Now that's good advice. One reason people feel really good after they quit a dead-end project is that they discover that hurting one's pride is not fatal. You work up the courage to quit, bracing yourself for the sound of your ego being ripped to shreds, and then everything is okay. Quitting when you're panicked is dangerous and expensive. The best quitters, as we've seen, are the ones who decide in advance when they're going to quit. You can always quit later, so wait until you're done panicking to decide. Quitting a job is not quitting your quest to make a living or a difference or an impact. Quitting a job doesn't have to mean giving up. A job is just a tactic, a way to get what you really want. Here's an assignment for you. Write it down. Write down under what circumstances you're willing to quit and when. And then stick with it. If quitting is going to be a strategic decision that enables you to make smart choices in the marketplace, then you should outline your quitting strategy before the discomfort sets in. If you enter a market that's too big or too loud for the amount of resources you have available, your message is going to get lost. Your marketing disappears. Your message fails to spread. How dare you settle for mediocre just because you're busy coping with too many things on your agenda, racing against the clock to get it all done? The lesson is simple. If you've got as much as you've got, use it. Use it to become the best in the world, to change the game, to set the agenda for everyone else. You can only do that by marshaling all of your resources to get through the biggest possible dip. In order to get through that dip, you'll need to quit everything else. If it's not going to put a dent in the world, quit. Right now. Quit and use that void to find the energy to assault the dip that matters. Go ahead. Make something happen. We're waiting. Acknowledgements. This book is really short. Short books are hard to write, but you made me do it. My readers are excellent correspondents, and this is something I've learned from them along the way. Write less. It's almost impossible to overinvest in becoming the market leader. All our successes are the same. All our failures, too. We succeed when we do something remarkable. We fail when we give up too soon. We succeed when we are the best in the world at what we do. We fail when we get distracted by tasks we don't have the guts to quit.